Alright, hello everyone and welcome to WWE Discussion. I'm your host on WWE enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing NXT August 22nd, 2023 edition. And this was the hottest show on the NXT calendar, NXT Heatwave. So on this special edition of NXT, you had an NXT title match, Wesley versus Carmelo Hayes, Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio taking on Valkyrie and Dragon Lee, Heritage Cup on the line, Nathan Frazier defending against Noam Dar, Trick Williams going one-on-one with Ilya Dragunov. So this show had the chance to be something special for NXT, especially with the Heat main event that was advertised. Would the brand have a new champion? No, they wouldn't. Instead, Melo would continue his dominant reign at the top of the card. And with that, we're going to get right into the action, starting with Ilya Dragunov versus Trick Williams. And despite losing, Trick Williams more than proved himself with his effort. And this was a major test coming into this match for Trick. His most competitive and high-profile singles match was against one of NXT's best. And while it is not yet his time for him to be winning against a guy like Dragunov, he held his own. This was the kind of proven match that works. The fans were behind every near fall. Trick worked at the pace that Dragunov set, and with this win, the Mad Dragon certainly makes a case to be right back in the NXT Championship picture, and perhaps he gets his rematch at No Mercy. Heritage Cup, Nathan Frazier versus Noam Dar, and this was by far the best Heritage Cup match since the championship was reintroduced in NXT. This was a dramatic showcase of the rounds format that ended with Dar working smarter than his opponent to become the first ever three-time Heritage Cup champion or Heritage Cup winner. It is a shame, though, that one of the falls did happen during the commercial break, as the complete experience could have stolen the show at a premium live event, and that is certainly an issue to be had. Is where commercials lie. I've asked this question before, and I don't think it's been a solid answer. Maybe I should put this on Twitter and see if somebody could answer this one. But why can't a match just happen entirely without commercials, and then commercials be after the match? It just doesn't really make any sense for there to be commercials in the middle of the match. Nonetheless, when the Scottish Supernova arrived in NXT with Heritage Cup, he struggled to make an impact, but with the introduction of Metaphor, coupled with him losing the cup, that changed everything. The whole story has come together beautifully, and Frazier, well, unfortunately short run, but still a great run, and certainly could have done more, but Dar has defined the championship, and so it only makes sense that he's the one to defend it at No Mercy. And with the tournament announced to determine the next challenger, perhaps Frazier could bounce back and find himself competing once again for the Heritage Cup. Certainly a possibility, but if he's not going to win the cup in a rematch, then there's probably no point in him competing, but hey, running back with Frazier and Dar, not a bad idea. Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio versus Valkyrie and Dragon Lee, and every second of Ripley versus Valkyrie, I guess not every second, but when Ripley and Valkyrie were the stars of this match, every second they were in it. The two have great chemistry, and there were also some fun sequences with Dom and Dragon Lee, especially down the stretch. The transition from the women wrestling to the men wrestling at times awkward, but I think that's to be expected of a mixed tag team match. The men with the silly rule of the men having to fight the men and the women having to fight the women, when Rhea Ripley can more than certainly hold her own against most men in WWE, and I'd even make the argument that Valkyrie could hold up against Dominic Mysterio, but nonetheless, it didn't have that big of an impact on the match, but it can always be a little bit awkward. This also, with Dragon Lee pinning Dominic Mysterio, sets up Dragon to challenge again for the North American title, though Mustafa Ali also wants his title shot, so that title scene is certainly loaded with talent to watch. So in conclusion, going into the night, all signs pointing to the main event being the match of the night. It was not, though. Williams versus Dragunov, Frazier versus Dar, Ripley Mysterio versus Valkyrie and Lee are all better than the main event, and that is a testament to the talent, elevating matches that have had solid builds but were not nearly as flashy on paper. Everyone worked hard to elevate each other and set the stage for potentially exciting matches to come. The show It was a letdown for the women's division, however, it has taken too long to establish the next challenger for Tiffany Stratton, and in the process of trying to establish that challenger, they did set up a fatal 4-way match to determine the next number 1 contender, although it is quite obvious that the 4 women involved, well, that maybe they shouldn't be talking as much, or maybe they should focus more on backstage interviews until they can get their in-ring stuff downgraded. I know they'll get better through reps, but man, it is kind of tough to watch segments like that when none of them are any good on the mic. But the only match that featured just the women going one-on-one, well, that match didn't even go 3 minutes. Then again, when you think about who was competing in that match, having Nyla and Ava Rain, and Ava, it was probably for the best that that match was short. Next week, the spotlight should be back on the women with that fatal 4-way that I mentioned. In fact, Carver next week with Creed Brothers versus Dyad inside a steel cage, and Dijak versus Eddie Thorpe. That could be just as good of a show, if not better, than Heatwave. Nonetheless, Heatwave, solid night of action, elevated multiple stars in, but unfortunately did fail to land on the main event. But I think that was just more, that's more an NXT than a talent, because a match like Hayes versus Lee, that's something special and should have been saved for a premium live event instead of being rushed onto the Heatwave card. So hopefully NXT can make that one right. Hopefully Hayes isn't completely out of the title scene, even though he lost. And with that, that will conclude this episode of WWE Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.